My parents stole clients from my first startup, handed them to my sister, and watched me lose everything. 7 years later, my cybersecurity company made headlines in a $940 million deal. That night, my mother texted, "Family dinner, no excuses, no congratulations, no apology. Just a command." 4 days later, I walked into the house I had avoided since they destroyed me. My father raised his wine glass. My sister smiled like time had buried what she did. I placed one folder beside my plate. They thought I came to celebrate. They did not know the company my sister called hers was already inside that folder. 7 years earlier, I was 25 and running my first cybersecurity business from a cramped office above an auto repair shop in Tampa. Every morning, the stairwell smelled like hot rubber, motor oil, and burnt coffee. The ceiling tiles had brown stains that spread whenever it rained. My server sat in a narrow closet near the water heater, and I kept a desk fan pointed at it because overheating was cheaper than replacing anything. My desk was an old door laid across 2 filing cabinets. I loved that desk. It was ugly, uneven, and entirely mine. I kept one clean blazer hanging behind the door for client meetings. Before anyone arrived, I would smooth my hair, wipe dust from my shoes, and pretend the hum from the vents sounded professional. My first real client was a small accounting firm. The printer jammed while I was preparing their paperwork, so I filled everything out by hand. My blue coffee mug left a faint ring on the back page. I remember staring at that mark and thinking, this is proof, something real has started. Within 6 months, I had 12 clients and about $15,000 coming in each month. It was not glamorous, but it covered rent, equipment, and the occasional takeout dinner eaten over my keyboard at home. None of that seemed to impress my father. William respected polished resumes, expensive suits, and people who knew how to enter a room. My older sister Emily had all 3. She was beautiful, confident, and armed with a business degree, but she had been unemployed for months. One Sunday, my mother served roast chicken, while my father explained my future, like it had already been decided. "Emily can handle clients," he said. "You stay focused on the technical work." My mother, Susan, placed an extra fork beside Emily's plate before I answered. That small sound of silverware against china told me everything. They had discussed this without me. Emily leaned forward and gave me the soft smile she used when she wanted something. "I'm not trying to take over," she said. "I just want to help you grow." I wanted to believe her. More than that, I wanted my parents to believe in me. So, the next Monday, Emily walked into my office, set her leather bag beside the spare desk, and asked where I kept the client records. I thought I was welcoming my sister. I had no idea I was handing her the map to everything I had built, including the names, renewal dates, and trust I had earned one awkward cold call at a time. By Friday, she knew which names could erase my future with a single call. For the first 2 weeks, Emily was exactly what my parents had promised. She answered calls before the second ring. She reorganized the calendar, cleaned up the payments, and spoke to clients with the easy confidence I had always needed 5 minutes to find. I started sleeping better. That should have scared me. One Friday afternoon, I came back from a site visit and found the printer still warm. A thick stack of pages sat in the tray. Every client name, every contract, every renewal date, every note I had made after late-night calls. Emily walked in carrying iced coffee. "What is this?" I asked. She glanced at the pages, then at me. "I'm working from home this weekend. You printed everything," she smiled. "Doris, relax. I can't help you grow if I don't understand the business." The word relax did what it always does when someone knows you have a reason not to. I should have taken the pages. I should have changed every password that night. Instead, I apologized for sounding suspicious. 3 weeks later, I drove out of town for a meeting with a hospital group. It was the biggest opportunity I had ever had, and I spent the entire Saturday practicing my pitch in a hotel mirror. While I was gone, my father called all 12 of my clients. He told them my company was being restructured. He said the family had decided their accounts would be safer under more experienced management. My mother sent new bills and payment instructions. Her name made the lie feel official. 3 clients were moved to a technology firm where my father had money invested. The other 9 were transferred to a new company registered under Emily's name. I knew none of this when I unlocked my office Monday morning. The room looked normal. The fan hummed, the old vent clicked. My blue coffee mug was still beside the keyboard, but the phone did not ring. At first, I checked the cord, then the voicemail, then the internet. Nothing was broken. I called my first client. Karen answered after a long pause. "Doris," she said carefully, "your father told us you approved the transfer." My fingers went cold around the phone. I approved nothing. There was silence on her end, the kind that tells you someone already knows they have been pulled into something ugly. I called the next client, then another. Same story. By noon, I had spoken to 6 people. By 2, I knew all 12 accounts were gone. My father told me to come to the house. He was standing beside the dining table when I arrived. My mother sat with her hands folded. Emily stared at a spot near her plate. "You had no right," I said. My father barely blinked. "You were playing business," he said. "We fixed it before you hurt everyone involved," my mother added. "The clients needed stability." I looked at Emily. "Did you know?" She swallowed. "Dad said it was best." That was when I noticed the new payment folder beside my mother's purse. It was already labelled, already organised, already used. This had not happened over one weekend. They had planned it while eating dinner with me, smiling at me, asking how work was going. By sunset, my company still existed on paper. In every way that mattered, my family had already buried it alive. For the next 3 months, I fought like effort alone could reverse what they had done. I rebuilt my call list from memory. I drove to business parks with a laptop in the passenger seat and practiced my pitch at red lights. I offered free security reviews. I followed up until my voice went flat. 2 prospects said yes. Neither signed in time. When I missed the second rent payment, the owner of the repair shop gave me 30 days to leave. He was kind about it, which somehow made it worse. On my final Saturday, I returned to the leased equipment, packed my laptop, a box of cables, and the blazer I kept for meetings. The office looked larger without the desks and monitors. Empty rooms always do. I searched every drawer for the handwritten record for my first client. It was gone. Emily had taken it with the rest of the files. I stood there listening to the fan turn in the server closet, even though there was nothing left to cool. Then I locked the door and drove to Jacksonville. I rented a studio apartment with a parking lot outside the only window and a heater that knocked every 20 minutes. I worked overnight system monitoring for $12 an hour. Some nights I ate crackers over the sink because buying groceries meant waiting another week to replace my failing laptop. My family never called. Not when I moved, not when I signed my first new client after 11 months, not when I hired a part-time analyst from his apartment. The first year I signed 4 clients, the second year 9 more. By the third, I had 6 employees and a major healthcare contract that changed everything. I kept growing, new cities, new contracts, new people who trusted my work because I had earned that trust. Then in my 5th year, a man named Frank Miller called. He had once owned a small technology firm and played golf with my father. His company had recently collapsed. "Your father invested about $80,000 with me," he said. "He sent 3 of your clients to protect that money. I could not handle the rest, so they went to Emily." I stopped breathing for a second. All those speeches about my sister being more qualified had been camouflage. My father had not destroyed me because he believed in Emily. He had done it to protect himself. Frank sent proof. Michael Turner, my operations director, helped me verify the timeline, payments, and transfers. Then Michael told me Emily's company had been declining for 18 months. "You could buy it," he said. I stared at him. Not destroy it, not sabotage it. Buy it legally. Keep the employees. Protect the clients. Pay fair value. I agreed on those conditions. 3 weeks before my own company made headlines for a $940 million deal, Emily signed away hers for about $2 million. She did not know I was the buyer, and I still had one thing left to recover. Something small, handwritten, and missing since the morning my company died without making a sound. 3 days after the headline broke, I drove to Emily's office. The sign still carried her name, though the blue letters were peeling. Inside, the hallway smelled like carpet cleaner and stale coffee. Michael met me with the transition keys. The employees knew the company had been sold. They did not know to whom. I went straight to Emily's old office. Her desk was bare except for a white planter and a framed picture of her with our parents. I was not in it. Against the wall stood a dented filing cabinet. The 3rd drawer stuck. I pulled harder. Inside was a folder labelled Original Clients. My hands started shaking before I opened it. There it was, my first client record. My handwriting covered every line. When I turned it over, the coffee ring was still there, faded brown against the paper. For a moment, I was 25 again. sitting above the repair shop with my blue mug beside a broken printer, believing hard work could protect me from people I loved. Michael looked over my shoulder. "We're framing that," he said. 4 nights later, I stood on my parents' porch with that paper inside a folder. Family dinner, no excuses. My mother's words repeated in my head. Susan opened the door and froze when she saw Michael. "Who is he?" "My business partner. This is family." "So is what we're discussing." She stepped aside. William sat at the head of the table. Emily stood near the kitchen with a glass of wine. The room smelled like roasted chicken and rosemary, exactly as it had the night they decided she belonged in my company. For 10 minutes, they pretended we were normal. William asked about the $940 million deal. Susan asked what percentage I still owned. Emily asked whether I planned to retire. Not one of them apologised. Then William raised his glass. Not bad for a girl who started above a repair shop. Susan smiled. Emily lifted her wine. I left my glass on the table and placed the folder beside my plate. Michael opened it. 3 weeks ago, he said, a business entity controlled by Doris purchased Emily's company for approximately $2 million. Emily's glass stopped halfway to her mouth. "What, I bought your company?" I said. Her face went pale. "You hid behind another buyer. You had independent lawyers. You received fair value. Your employees kept their jobs. Your clients kept their service. You deceived me. No, you never asked who was behind the offer. You only asked whether the money was real." Susan leaned forward. "Emily built that company." I placed the client record on the table. "No, she built on this." Emily stared at my handwriting. I turned the page over. The coffee ring faced upward. "I found it in your filing cabinet." She looked at William, not me. Then I placed the investment records beside it. "Dad, why did you send 3 of my clients to Frank Miller before the others went to Emily?" The room changed. William's fork touched his plate with a sharp click. Emily whispered, "Who is Frank?" "He told me about the $80,000, I said. "Your investment, the one you tried to save with my clients." William's jaw tightened. "This is business." "No, business is negotiation. You used your name to erase mine." Susan cut in. "Nobody builds anything alone." "You're right." I looked at her. "You prepared the payments and bills before I knew I was being replaced." Her face hardened. "We were protecting the family." "Which part? His money? Her career?" "Because it was never me." William pushed back. "You could not keep 12 clients. You made sure I never had the chance." I looked at Emily. "You were handed 12 clients and sold your company for about $2 million. Then I faced my parents. I started over with 0 and built one worth $940 million. Nobody moved. I slid the record back into the folder. I did not come for congratulations. I came because the truth had been sitting in the wrong office under the wrong name for 7 years. I stood. Michael stood with me. At the doorway, William finally spoke. "So that's it." I turned back. "No. That was the part you were supposed to hear." Then I looked at Emily. "The part you have to live with starts tomorrow." 11 days after dinner, my mother called. I was still at the office reviewing the transition plan for Emily's company. Michael sat across the room with a paper cup of coffee, pretending not to listen. Susan's voice was soft. Too soft. "When your grandmother died, you held my hand through the entire funeral," she said. "You were 15. You have always been the one who holds this family together." She had chosen the memory carefully. The church basement, the smell of lilies, her fingers locked around mine while everyone else drifted toward the coffee table and sheet cake. For 1 second, I was that girl again. Then I remembered sitting alone in an empty office while my phone stayed silent. "I held your hand because you were hurting," I said. "You watched Dad take everything from me and never reached for mine." She inhaled sharply. "Doris, families make mistakes. A mistake is forgetting a birthday. What you did took planning." I ended the call before she could turn my pain into another obligation. 3 weeks later, Karen, my first client, received the transition paperwork. The old handwritten record had been included in the account history. She called Emily directly. "I have Doris's handwriting in front of me," Karen said. "The date is earlier than your company's registration." Were we her client first? Emily could have lied. There was no room left for one. "Yes," she said. Karen stayed quiet for a moment. "We are remaining with the new company," she replied. But I needed to hear you say it. The call ended. For the first time in 7 years, Emily had to speak the truth without our parents standing beside her. On the final day of the transition, she returned to the office. A temporary sign had replaced her name on the glass. Her 8 employees sat in the conference room while my integration director explained new systems, benefits, and reporting lines. Nobody lost a job. Nobody was humiliated. Nobody asked Emily to join the meeting. She walked to her old office. The computer had been reset. The desk was empty. The third drawer of the filing cabinet stood slightly open. The original client folder was gone. Emily removed the brass nameplate from her door and placed it inside her purse. It was the only thing in the room that had ever belonged entirely to her. My father came closest to apologising in a grocery store parking lot. He found my name on his phone and stared at it for several seconds. Then he placed the phone face down and drove home without making the call. He still wanted forgiveness without confession. I was no longer offering that bargain. At my office, the article about the $940 million deal went into a binder. The handwritten record went into a frame behind my desk. A month later, Michael knocked on the glass wall. "Karen renewed for 3 years," he said. I looked at the faded ink and smiled. The first client had come back. Not because I took revenge, because the truth finally had the right name on it. Family love is not permission to exploit someone, erase their work and demand silence afterwards. I did not win because Emily lost control of her company or because my father lost the money he tried to protect. I won because none of them could define my worth anymore. You can love your family and still refuse to be used. You can forgive without returning to the place that broke you. Have you ever had to protect your future from the people meant to protect you? Share your story and subscribe for more stories like this.